We've got Yogendra Yadav who joined us now, and many congratulations. You're not smiling enough. What's happening? You smile at the drop of a hat. Today is the day for, yes, that's much
because
better.
Because it's not his polls that turned out right.
Correct. Yeah, I think
he underestimated.
You underestimated. 50 was far too little. You got to be self-critical now.
Actually, to be fair, this is not the moment to say I told you so. But what I had said was that the most likely scenario is 51, and I had said that a possible scenario is 57 seats for Aam Aadmi Party. This is what we had said, and we are roughly somewhere there. But that's a small thing. I mean, we are not here to compete for forecasting. The real thing is about the result itself, the wave that Delhi has seen. And that's something I've been saying, and many colleagues have been saying for the last fortnight or so,
right,
that it's a wave, that it's not just the underclass that's voting for Aam Aadmi Party, it's the middle class as well. And now we can see results coming from predominantly middle class constituencies that Aam Aadmi Party is doing rather well in those areas. So it's a wave, and what we can say is that the juggernaut seems to have halted, at least for the time being, and the hope that people thought has been extinguished in the Lok Sabha election, the hope is alive. That's what matters more than anything else.
Yogendra, Mamata Banerjee has just said the Delhi elections is a turning point for the entire country. Do you agree with that? How will things change now in Delhi, and what will the impact be on the central government as well, nationally?
I don't know, Dr. Roy. I would hesitate to overread. Maybe it's my academic self. But I think the kind of hype that was generated around Aam Aadmi Party after Delhi victory last time, it actually damaged us. I think it's important to read the verdict to be what it is. Yes, the juggernaut has been halted, but those who believe that now on BJP would be defeated by itself, that Mr. Modi has suddenly become unpopular Prime Minister, I think that's a mistaken reading. It's a Delhi specific reading. Yes, the fact is that Mr. Modi had thrown all his prestige into the battle, and for some reason he turned into a personal referendum on himself, which he needn't have done. Why did he do so? Did he suspect that the juggernaut, if it's halted, would not be able, it's very hard to restart it? Is it because he thought that the myth of invincibility, once shattered, is impossible to recreate? Or is it that he would rather lose to any other party, but not to Aam Aadmi Party, which presents the threat of a viable alternative in the long run? But all this is in the long run. I do not think I would probably agree with Mamata Di. I do not think that by itself the days of BJP are over. Please remember that Aam Aadmi Party in the last few months has put in enormous organizational effort, has put in a positive agenda, and unless an effort of that kind is put up in other parts, one cannot assume that the trend has been reversed and this could be a turning point in national politics. I know I should be saying these things, but somehow my own sense is that we should not overread these things. A hype actually is not the best thing in the current situation.
What will the changes be for the average person in Delhi looking ahead, say 6 months from now? What will they see as different?
First of all, Dr. Roy, something to which the governments don't contribute. In the 49 days of government, something happened in Delhi, and I don't believe it is because the government was able to reach to the last person. But somehow, the fact of seeing something like an Aam Aadmi Party in governance changed the morale of the people, boosted their self-confidence, and by itself, it ended up shaking the regime of corruption. All these things happened. They will happen once again. As I said, even without the government's intervention, even without the government doing very much. Then there are things which the government will do. This has to do with electricity, this has to do with water, this has to do with addressing the problems of those who remain unheard, unsung in Delhi. My personal image of Delhi has changed after these two elections. Delhi doesn't look to be a place which has only Greater Kailash, has Sarojini Nagar, has Connaught Place and other things. Now when I think of Delhi, I think of Buradi, of Kiradi, of Mustafabad, of Patiala, of Sangam Vihar. These are places where people are waiting for someone to do something for them. And I do think that the next 6 months, Aam Aadmi Party should be able to begin a process of delivery. But this has to be a 5-year long process in which we have to come up with policy alternatives. We have already thought very hard. And in all fairness, I think this should be granted that Aam Aadmi Party is the only party which had positive blueprints, which had white papers, which has an action plan, and we would get about implementing it. But this time I would think and hope that we go about it slowly in a sure-footed way.
So you're talking about, take these areas you mentioned, the Delhi which you've begun to realize is becoming more self-confident. What will they see? There have been a lot of promises. Many of them will be tough to actually implement, like everybody will get a house and everybody will get a pakka house and various things. Electricity prices will come down. You have a budget. Everybody in their daily life has a budget. There's going to be a lot of pressure on you to actually deliver on these things. So what will your priorities be? Really 6 months from now, what change will I see on the ground if I'm in these areas?
There are short-term things
Right.
to do with electricity prices, for example. We made a promise, we got to deliver it immediately, awaiting the audit and other things. But we realized, Dr. Roy, there are lots and lots of things which have just been pending in Delhi. There are 220 schools which have been sanctioned, but which actually never happened. There are so many hospitals which have been started, but which are awaiting inauguration or awaiting completion, awaiting someone to be posted. So there are, low-lying fruits, low-hanging fruits, which can be plucked straight away, immediately. And then there is a longer challenge, long-term challenge that we have to deal with. But it's not for me to right now outline week by week, month by month agenda. And one thing, as you would notice, we have done and we have learned from last time, is not to commit ourselves to weekly deadlines, which is something we did. I suppose it gives the government a little more room to do things. But I do hope that something would happen about electricity prices, about water availability, or at least reducing the tanker mafia, and something about availability of schooling and hospitals to begin with.
Right. Just some looking ahead, what will the Aam Aadmi Party government look like? The Chief Minister, but what about the members of his team? Who are the likely 6 or 7 short choices, do you think?
I thought, Dr. Roy, this is what the new generation of journalists did and you did not do, which is to move 7 steps beyond the news.
No, what happens is, you
actually
see,
speak to most journalists.
Yogendra, no,
Yeah.
I've always done this because at a particular point when the results are clear, you have to just look ahead. There's no point going back too much. I know you don't want to answer that question, of course.
All I can say is that it will be a government full of lots of youth faces, a government which would have a team. I'm more interested in the team rather than the faces. A team which has gone through very close blueprinting for the last 3-4 months. That team is what would administer, that would govern. It's a team of some of the first-rate professionals, some of the best technical experts, some of the best economists. That team will guide it, whatever the face is. I wouldn't really get into the
fine.
faces part of
Actually,
it.
I must say one change. We ran a campaign called No VIP, no Lal Battis, no, taking advantage of VIP privilege. And I must say, the only party which I think almost all 70 candidates signed was the Aam Aadmi Party. All others,
And even those who
the
were not
BJP
candidates,
was the
they
lowest.
asked me to sign.
Sorry?
They asked me to sign, and I've also signed up.
Yes. So we
they
will not
asked
see any
even
Lal
those who were not
Battis, right?
candidates.
Well, that's a big
Absolutely.
change.
I
None of the other parties,
Yes,
other parties were about 50%. 50% of the candidates said, no, we like our Lal Batti. That's what we've lived for. So that's a change. Shekhar, you wanted to ask?
You gave a couple of things. Number one, just a point of editorial caution. If I don't like using the word juggernaut because I find it so colonial.
Narrative?
Narrative is
Postmodern narrative.
No. So that having said that, do you think that this also shows a very new change? One in Delhi, and second, also I know because we learned caste politics from you, analyzing caste politics from you. Rise of a new caste in Indian politics. Number one, it's the first election in Delhi which has been won by a non-Punjabi, more or less, unless you put Sahib Singh as a non-Punjabi. But he was not in front to win that election. And second, this time an unusual caste became a central talking point, particularly in the last week, and a caste that the BJP had always taken for granted, which is the winning leader's caste as well.
Caste point.
Oh,
On the juggernaut thing, let me say that the word juggernaut comes actually from India, as you know. It
I know
comes
from Jagannath. Yes.
The Rath of Jagannath.
But it's colonial.
The word comes to English, and it's best if we recover that word. For me, it's a recovery of my own word. It's the Rath of Lord Jagannath which has started. It seemed as if the Rath cannot stop. And it has been halted. I would not join all those opposition parties who may now become smug and start imagining that, now they have won Bihar, now they have almost challenged BJP in Uttar Pradesh. I think all that would be completely complacent. Prime ministers tend to be popular for at least 1 or 2 years. Mr. Modi's popularity has not suddenly disappeared. What has changed is the ability to transfer that popularity to a non-existent name or to a new name like Kiran Bedi ji. That is what has changed. On the caste thing, I think we tend to read too much. I think what we have really seen is the rise of a new kind of politics which actually does not respect the established caste community equations of Delhi. We have the rise of class politics without any ideology of class struggle. This is very important. You've almost never had it in India, a class politics without class struggle. We have a politics in which all communities come together, cutting across the standard old sociology of Delhi. Almost exactly what Mr. Narendra Modi did in the 2014 Lok Sabha election. All the old sociology of Delhi became almost irrelevant and people come and unite. This is exactly what happens in most wave elections. So I would not put much emphasis, or in fact any emphasis, on the caste or community that our leader happens to come from, unless you are particularly excited about it.
No, I'm not. No, but you, your party responded to a BJP advertisement which mentioned the word Gotra. In fact, your party got excited, and it was something to take note of.
No, Shekhar, that was simply a response to what the BJP had done to us earlier, which was a very, very unfair thing. Arvind had said in a normal meeting of traders, where most of them were not from this caste or community, he had said, "Main baniya hu, main aapki problem samajhta hu." I mean, basically he was saying, I come from this community and I understand the problem that traders face. BJP made such a news about it, and news channels got after us, that next time when they mentioned Gotra, someone returned this, same thing in that, returned it in the same coin to that. Nothing more than that.
Yogendra Yadav, I have to inform you that your forecast was completely wrong. It's not 57 seats. We are projecting 58 to 59. It's just, you must get your forecasting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask
Very
a question,
happy
please?
to be wrong, sir.
Yeah. Can I ask a
Couldn't
question?
be happier being wrong.
When Pranoy asked you a few minutes ago whether you'd like to name the cabinet, you said, let's not get ahead of us. But to me, the way it looks, the central cabinet in Delhi and the Delhi cabinet are both seem as of now to be very leader driven. That, the leader and then there's nobody. So are we going to have a union cabinet kind of cabinet where one man speaks and the rest do? Or is it going to be a cabinet of sort of many minarets, each sort of shining in the night?
You know, in the last few months, beyond the glare of the media, we have created a team which has gone, and the team has lots of people, many of whom have not even contested elections. So they clearly will not be ministers. But there is a team which has been working silently on what we call Delhi Dialogue. The team went into the nitty-gritty of water situation, electricity situation in Delhi, detailed blueprint. I mean, almost academic papers were produced about what is the problem, where do we stand, what can be done, what would be the cost on water, electricity, education, health, women's security. And I think that team will start working. The team will deliver, and some of them will become minister. As you know, there is a restriction on the number of ministers that you can have. That's probably 7 or 8. You can't have more than that for reasons to do with the legislation. But what matters is that team, and I can tell you the team is not just one person.
Right. Just, I know it's not good to go back on an election on what the causes were, but looking at the opposition tactics against you, why did they bring in Kiran Bedi, and was that a big mistake? Did that help you a lot?
Dr. Roy, I always say, and I think this would please Shekhar Gupta, that political commentators must learn from cricket commentary. Cricket commentaries are far more sophisticated than political commentaries, because they don't say that if your team loses, your fielding was wrong, your batting was bad, your fielding was bad. They come up with more sophisticated analysis. And
they usually say the pitch
that
was
something
bad.
like this may happen. I suspect something like this may happen today, that they would put all the blame on Ms. Kiran Bedi. But let's remember that Ms. Bedi was brought in when BJP already had scented defeat. They already knew they were losing. That is when they brought Kiran Bedi as a last resort option. What really happened to my mind was we started with a huge disadvantage, 13% disadvantage. And Dr. Roy, you would remember, I can't recall anything except Ramakrishna Hegde's victory of 1985 that parallels this after a Lok Sabha election.
Right.
So we started with a huge deficit. The first thing that worked in our favor was BJP's decision not to hold the elections immediately. That gave us the time, and our team did make enormous effort. I must salute Arvind, Ashutosh and others. Organizational effort of 6 months in recreating a party where honestly we didn't have the courage to go to some of the middle class colonies of Delhi. Doors were shut, people would not welcome us. At that point, to rebuild the organization was a Herculean task. That gave us a possibility. Then we focused on the positive agenda for 2-3 months of Delhi Dialogue. Once we arrived there, I should say, after that the BJP did the rest for us. Their negative campaign, their confusion, the kind of abuses they hurled at us, and the last card of bringing in Ms. Kiran Bedi. I should underline today, although this is not the day to say those things, that bringing in Ms. Bedi was actually a smart move. It was not a silly move. By all opinion indicators, she enjoyed a higher popularity than Dr. Harshvardhan or anyone within the BJP. But I guess the BJP underestimated the opposition they would have within to her, and also they underestimated the challenges she would face in making a transition to a political life. That may have happened, but today to put all the blame on her would be unfair. I'm no spokesperson for her, but just in terms of a political analysis, I think what we have witnessed is something which is multi-layered, and bringing her in at the last minute was a card which was supposed to have redeemed a very bad situation for BJP. It didn't work.
Yogendra, I wanted to ask you, you won a historic victory. It is a landslide which was almost unprecedented. And you were working to change the system from within the system. If you were to meet Anna today, who says you shouldn't go into politics, change it from outside, do protests, what would you say to him?
I would say to Anna what I've been saying and writing for the last 10 years. Politics is the yug dharma of our age, of our times. This may not have been the case 100 years ago, this may not be the case 50 years from now. But in this country today, if you want to make any big change, whether it's in education, whether it is in water, you have to transform politics. Politics is the route through which any big change will take place. That's why we came to politics. Today is a small step. I mean, having achieved what is clearly a historic victory, I just want to invert what Neil Armstrong said. You know, when he landed on the moon, he said, small step for a human being, a leap for mankind, or something to that effect.
Right.
If you just invert it, that probably is true for us. It's a big leap for a small party like us, but a very small step in the direction of transforming Indian politics, which is what we set out to do.
Will you be fighting in Bihar?
We have to take this politics nationally. We are not a regional political party. But how exactly do we go about? What is the roadmap? Whether we do it via contesting elections or building organization and movements, those are decisions we have to sit down and think about. We have to come up with a strategy which is innovative, which is different, which is effective.
Because in many ways I've heard you, I think earlier, admire some of the work that Nitish, the Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has done. And if you did fight in Bihar, you would eat into his votes. So it's a strategic decision for you. Is it too early to go into Bihar? Because I guess in the Lok Sabha elections it was too early to go national. Have you learned something from that and you'll stand back in Bihar, or no thoughts on that yet?
No concrete decisions or thoughts on that, Dr. Roy. I mean, honestly, we've all been just completely busy, immersed in somehow trying to reverse our fortunes in Delhi, just to be able to have a foothold so that we can stand, so that we can say to so many people who had hope. You know, in the last 2 years, I've met so many young people, and you were talking about the youth. You know, people who've left their job, people who've left their studies, who've given up their career, all of them came with that hope. And after the Lok Sabha election, they were all, I mean, shoulders were drooping and they were asking, what should we do? Is there a possibility? So for us, the first challenge was to be able to pick up again and to say, there is future, things can change. That's what we appear to have done. And then we'll sit down and think about how do we move from this forward. And we'll take the advice of all well-meaning Indian citizens.
I must say, going around on the campaign trail, I found so many people from outside Delhi, from Pune, from Bangalore, all coming here just to fight for that campaign. It was most unusual. You don't see that generally in any other party or any other election.
One thing Aam Aadmi Party has done is to bring that spirit of voluntarism back into politics.
Yes.
Which had almost disappeared after the communist movements and so on. You know, those were the last movements about 30, 40 years ago, which brought, or JP movement, which brought that voluntarism into politics. Aam Aadmi Party has brought that. And that's one lasting contribution we may have made, irrespective of elections and governments.
And that's a huge change to do this. Most of this as volunteers is a transformation.
I've been drawing parallels with Kejriwal's style of campaigning with VP Singh, which stand. I think he does remind us of VP Singh a great deal. But the rise of Aam Aadmi Party has another parallel in fairly recent history, preceding VP Singh. That is 1985, the rise of Assam Gan Parishad in Assam. And there are many parallels because that was a young party consisting purely of student leaders who were even younger than Aam Aadmi Party. And in that election, which I covered in the winter of 1985, the slogan was Rajiv Gandhi Zindabad, vote for AGP. Rajiv Gandhi Zindabad, Congress Party Murdabad. Because Rajiv Gandhi had signed a peace accord settlement with the Assam agitators. They were happy. And I do remember once that Amitabh Bachchan, who was then campaigning for Congress Party, his helicopter landed in an AGP rally. And he was asked to speak a few words, and there was no hostility. So I think you see a bit of that in Delhi as well, that Modi is all right, let him focus on running the country, but we have now an alternative of people who look young like us or who look like my children.
Yogendra, you agree with Shekhar?
No, I don't think, I don't know if I'd agree. I agree with one part of it. I think the sheer energy that Assam Gan Parishad brought, that youthful energy, excitement, idealism, you also find a lot of that in Aam Aadmi Party.
Also at that point, incorruptibility.
Yes,
They lost too
which
long, though.
unfortunately they lost very, very soon. But yes, at that point, yes. Two respects in which we differ is one, AAGP came very
Yes.
strong on an ethnic slogan, which is not what Aam Aadmi Party has to do. And on that other thing about us, I mean, it is true that many people have voted us who do not disapprove of Mr. Modi. But our relationship with Mr. Modi is certainly not what Assam Gan Parishad's relationship with Rajiv Gandhi was. I mean, they were almost grateful to him, and Rajiv Gandhi had almost hinted that Congress party should ensure that AGP should win. That's certainly not what you see in Delhi, Shekhar. We've been targeted very, very severely by the Prime Minister in ways which is almost unbecoming of a Prime Minister.
We are just getting in pictures from outside the Congress headquarters where there are huge crowds of Congress party workers saying Desh Bachao Priyanka Lao. Is that a change that the Congress needs to make, that its leadership problem, that Priyanka Gandhi should enter the leadership of the Congress party? And would that worry you? Because in some ways, Congress and your base are very similar. So is Congress also your primary enemy rather than the BJP? You want their voters.
I don't know what Congress should do, and thankfully I don't have to carry that burden.
Right.
I think Congress has entered a sort of a free fall situation where things are getting from bad to the worse for Congress. The Congress doesn't simply seem to have the political will to be the dominant opposition party in the country. So we have a government, but we do not have quite an opposition. And I don't think changes at the top would make a difference. There is an oppositional vacuum in the country. The vacuum is becoming deeper and deeper. And I really think while this has been talked about very often, and it is premature to write obituaries of any large party like Congress party, and Congress is numerically much, much bigger than us outside Delhi. But I really think that Congress faces nothing short of a crisis of its existence. Congress got to do something to remain where it is. Otherwise, my own sense is that this oppositional vacuum is waiting for a new player to come in. And Aam Aadmi Party would strive to occupy that space politically, whatever our electoral strategy, whatever our organizational expansion strategy. But in the long run, that is the vacuum that needs to be filled.
But in a way, they are your main competitor, right?
If you look at the figures, I mean, once you get the exit poll figures from Delhi, you would see our voters have come both from Congress and from BJP. But in one sense, I see the point that you are making, which is to say, at the moment, the governmental space is occupied by the BJP for the next 4 years or so. So it's only the oppositional space where there is a vacuum. And in many states, that oppositional space is occupied by the Congress, where Congress is actually not being an opposition. If you look at that strip running from Gujarat to Odisha, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Congress is in opposition and offers no opposition at all. So those are areas which are waiting for a new political force to come up. And next few years can be very exciting time.
You know better than all of us the importance and the significance of the index of opposition unity and how divided opposition can help a minority party, a party with the minority votes win. So in Bihar, where everybody is getting together, would the Aam Aadmi Party join that, support a united opposition, or, well, support a united front with Nitish Kumar, or would you stay separate?
Dr. Roy, without prejudging our electoral strategy and organizational strategy, I would simply underline one basic. Aam Aadmi Party did not come to politics merely as an anti-Congress party. We did not come merely as an anti-BJP party. And we are not merely anti-Congress, anti-BJP party. We came as an anti-establishment party. The people of India thought they were sick and tired of the political establishment of this country. And the only way of being true to our mandate is to stay away from the political establishment of this country. And when I say political establishment, it includes not only Congress and BJP, but all the big parties which have been in power at the center or at the state level. If our volunteers, our workers, our supporters, the moment they suspect us even touching or having conversation with any of these parties, they say, you're doing the same thing as them. So I think the real mandate for us is not to offer political alternatives, but to try and be alternative politics itself.